that part 1000x. Does that change the game theory, the tokenomics with PulseChain if validators get rewarded that much more? Because isn't that more inflation?
So here's some things. So you have the inflation is increased. There's a 25% burn that I just talked about in the inflation given the validators cut off the top, right? Not in the fees. EIP 1559 fee burning still happens.
Mm-hmm.
The GUI that you pay, the beats in PulseChain we call beats, is the same thing as GUI. So just right. As I use them, I actually use both terms so people understand what I'm talking about. So the GUI or beat that you pay per transaction could go up to like it went to over 200 this week. It could go to 1,000, go to 100,000. But the price of each PLS, because there's so much more supply, is so small that we could have 1,000 beat or GUI gas if blocks are full, and the price per transaction would be way less than what it would be on Ethereum. You're talking 10, 100 times less than what you pay on Ethereum. But these huge burns are happening because the way gas is it's oversimplified, but it's like the amount of GUI times the unit price of a contract call. So like say the average contract call is 250,000 units times the GUI paid. And then there's some other math in there that I don't want to go into, but I'm saying it's a function of how much GUI you pay is how much gets burned, how much the validators get in rewards, the tip that you get is right. It depends on how much demand's in the network. So are people tipping for the transactions to get put into the mempool and to get validated or not? Right. All those are different variables based on like demand of the blockchain. So at say like 40, 50,000 validators. So PulseChain is probably gonna have like 10 times less validators than Ethereum. So even at say 40,000, 50,000 validators, PulseChain has like 76% less inflation. Like, you know what I mean? The total supply is increasing at 76%, 80% less.
Yeah.
Like the number that's being quoted is 76%. But that's at like 40,000 validators or 45,000 validators, like around there. So there's less inflation. The GUI, the beats that you pay is going to be higher because the token supply is so much lower that people will be bidding up the GUI to get into the blocks. So you could easily have 100 GUI beats per transaction. Like this week was 200, and people were just like paying it like it's nothing because the price of each PLS is so small that it's a very, very, very tiny number, right? It's still very, very cheap. So they're bidding up the price, and that price could go up to 10,000, 100,000. Now, of course, you'd have to look at the price of PLS, but if PulseChain has a huge amount of demand, like the blocks are full. And I know there's particular projects out there that like to fill up blocks of blockchains, right? I don't want to name them, but it doesn't have a great chart, but it does on every chain. It fills up the blocks, like 90% of the blocks. They're paying gas fees. So that's going to drive up the price. That's going to give validators rewards. It's going to burn a lot of PLS. It's going to drive up the price of beats, to their 100, like their 1,000, maybe their 5,000, maybe 10,000, whatever the price is. That's the market, right? Depends on the demand. And that's going to burn PLS. So it's very likely, well, it will at one point in the future, depending on how much demand there is, and in PulseChain, be net deflationary because there's less inflation happening overall because there's less validators, because the total number of inflation per year is a function of how many validators there are. PulseChain launches at 4,096. Community validators come on board. Like right now, there's like 5,250, right? So then there's going to be 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 validators, however many they are. Those are all community validators, including myself, including you, everybody. So as the number of validators increases, the total amount of supply that's created in the whole network goes up, but the reward as a percentage goes down, right? So your share of the inflation is very high now. At like 5,000 validators, it's in the 30% range or whatever. And then as more validators come on, then that goes down to hopefully get around 3, 4, 5%, which would be basically like Ethereum, right? But it could be like 10%. Like at what percentage? It just depends on how many validators there are. Because we're incentivizing the validators to be online. So if you have a 32 million PLS and that incentive is very juicy for you, then maybe you lock up your 32 million PLS, become a validator, get your share of that inflation. And then you still own that 32 million PLS. Like withdrawals are going to be active, right?
Right.
Like, I mean, they're gonna be active. We're not waiting years for withdrawals. Ethereum already has withdrawals. Now, obviously, when is that gonna happen? Well, I'm sure Richard will tweet about that when that becomes a thing that he wants the community to know. But it is a thing that's gonna happen on mainnet. It is a thing that's gonna happen on V4. It's only a matter of time. So that's not even a cost. That's hopefully people were gonna hold on to the PLS anyway. So why wouldn't you just run it a validator and get get your share of that inflation, and then you're holding the PLS anyway, right? So
yeah. Well, so the ideal is the first being early as a validator before there's 40K. You're gonna get a lot better APY, make a lot more fees, stuff like that, and then hopefully over time, once we get a ton more validators, the APY goes down. But why would you stick in the system? Maybe the PLS price is high, and you even at a smaller APY, you're happy to earn that. That kind of the ideal, you think?
Yeah. So it's 32 million PLS. So I mean, if you have 20 or 30,000 validators, that's a huge amount of PLS that's taken off the market, out of circulating supply. I mean, technically it's still in circulating supply, but it's like it's there locked in the contract, earning you revenue, right? So I mean, so that's always that's a great market dynamic that obviously everybody knows about. But it's mostly retail, right? Like I said earlier, is like if there's 135 trillion ish tokens on the market, 90% of that is the OA, right? 10% ish, 8%, whatever percentage you want to think it is retail. Those are the people who are actually community validators. So there's only so many validators that could even be in existence from the community. So you're talking 10 times less validators, meaning there's more rewards for the validators as opposed to Ethereum validators, right? So there's a little really juicy incentive to run a validator, to lock up your tokens, to receive that inflation. And when withdrawals are available and you have your withdrawal address actually activated, right? When you create your deposit, you should have it's called the ETH1 _ withdrawal address. And when you create your deposit, when you create your validator keys, you should set that in the stake and deposit CLI so that it's set already. So when withdrawals are available, the way it works, and there's an article all about withdrawals, the network sees that your validator has already set the withdrawal address, and it just goes through all the validators that has that withdrawal address set, and like apparently funds you, like gives you your PLS at some interval, and just rotates through all the validators that have the withdrawal set, and that's after withdrawals are available, right? So I read that article from Ethereum talking about withdrawals, and I was like, that's very interesting. So it doesn't even look like you have to claim or do anything. I mean, you would need to do a withdrawal if, say, like sign a transaction to actually deactivate your validator and then actually remove the 32 million PLS. But what it appears, and obviously withdrawals are not active on PulseChain, but as long as you have this withdrawal, it's sort of ETH1 _ withdrawal address is the flag. When you create your validator keys, you have that set, and then when withdrawals are active, then you start receiving your inflation in your wallet. And then so you could use that inflation to, I don't know, you could sell it. You could build up your PLS in there and then fund more validators, compounding your validator stake, right? Which is very interesting. And so you've effectively created a revenue business. You're a validator now, and you're getting your revenue every day, every week, whatever amount. So you have a revenue generating asset, right? Activity, I would call it, for your own work, right? Nobody else is doing work for you. You're doing your own work, creating your own rewards, and receiving compensation for that, which is very nice.